Hey, what's going on, everybody? ScottDogGaming here. Thank you very much for joining us. Patron blog, here we are. We're doing this again. If you're here watching on Patreon, hello. Thank you for joining us. If you're watching this on YouTube, you're about a month late. Should have come sooner. No, if you're watching this on YouTube, go to the Patreon page on the 5th and the 20th of each month, and you'll find this video up earlier than you will on YouTube. You don't have to buy anything, you don't have to sign up to anything, you don't have to do anything. The reason I put it on there is, yes, you guys can support the channel if you want to do that. I'm not asking you to do that. What I'm asking you to do is that when you get to that Patreon page, it's the best place to put some comments where I will see them, because they're directly associated to the video that I've put out. And in each one of these videos, I tend to ask some questions. If you guys feed back to me in those videos, I can hopefully change the channel for the better for you guys. So that's kind of why they're there and why I put them there. Let's have a talk about the channel. The channel is on 869 subs. I keep fluctuating between about 870, 872 and 869. And it's getting a bit repetitive and annoying now. But I can't complain. About 870 subs almost. So, I'm pleased that we're on that kind of number. I'd like to see it keep going. And I'd like to see it, just keep growing gradually rather than how it hit this wall. But that's where we are. I'm sure you guys, if you enjoy the videos, will share them, will, like them, leave comments as you always do. So, I'm not overly concerned about that. But what I wanted to talk about today in regards to the channel is the release schedule of videos. So at the moment, I release videos pretty much daily. On a different series each day. So let's just run through what that looks like. So on a Monday, it's LA Noir. On a Tuesday, Pro Evo. On a Wednesday, City Skylines. Thursday is Uncharted and Witcher, although I haven't recorded any Uncharted for a little while. Friday is Tabletop Simulator. Hopefully some of you guys will have checked out those videos. They're sort of card games on Tabletop Sim with a group of friends. So I really enjoy making them. Hopefully you guys enjoy watching them. And on a Saturday, I've moved into Gmod. Which is with the same group of people from the Tabletop Sim. So Trouble in Terrorist Town, Prop Hunt, Murder, that sort of stuff. So if you like the look of, if you like any of those videos, please let me know, and it will encourage me to make more. Similarly, if you don't like the collab stuff, then please let me know, and I'll cut down some of those and use that time to make other videos if that's what you want to see. But I really want you guys to let me know. So back to the initial question, or I guess the question for this week is, one of the questions for this week is, would you rather see a different series each day, or would you rather see a lesser number of series but more videos being released each day? So, for example, if we were to say, okay, LA Noir is going to be on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and we won't have any other series. They're the questions I guess I want to ask, because it just tells me whether to focus on all of the stuff I'm focusing on, or if I cut back on certain things and just focus on others. So that's where we are with series. I'd really like to know what you guys think. Would you rather see more frequent videos on content, on certain content, and no content on other things? Or would you rather see a wider scope of stuff, but, less frequently with the videos? That's kind of where we are and what I'd really like to know. So that takes me on to, I guess, my life and what's going on. First off, Beard Watch, as you can see, it is coming back slowly, but it's coming back, which is good news. Although I don't know about the next statement, if I'm allowed to keep this or not, but I'll go into that in a second. So the beard is returning. The glasses have returned. So what are we going to talk about next? My job. Today, which is the 17th of August, I handed in my notice with my current employer, which is fantastic news. I'm going full-time on YouTube. That's not true. I've got a job closer to home. At the moment, I have to drive 45 minutes to work, 45 minutes home from work. This is about 10 minutes away. I'm really looking forward to it. I also get the feeling it will be less stressful than my current job, and the money's a little bit more, which is great news. So I'm hoping that what this means is that I can spend more time with this stuff. I can spend more time with you guys, and I can also spend more time with the stuff that I've kind of been neglecting a little bit when you're working full time until 6 o'clock, getting home for 7 o'clock, having something to eat, and then maybe recording a video or two. That's kind of what a lot of has been going on in my life, whereas actually I might get home for 5 o'clock, cook tea for 6 o'clock, record a video for 7 o'clock, go and do something else, which I'm really looking forward to, actually sort of clawing some of that stuff back that I just haven't been doing, because essentially, although I don't treat this as a job and I don't see it as a job, essentially I've had 2 jobs for 2 years. Now one of them pays the money, the other doesn't, but I'm doing this as a hobby because I love playing computer games. I love the idea that you guys enjoy watching me play computer games, but it just means that I can wrestle back some of the other stuff that I haven't been able to do because of where I'm working. So that's fantastic news. The other good news is that today is the 17th of August. I'm off the 18th of August and 19th of August. I'm back to work for a week, and then I'm off for 2 whole weeks, which is amazing news. Now, I'm not going anywhere for those 2 weeks, which is good, because actually what I plan on doing is recording and streaming and doing all sorts of stuff. So hopefully for those 2 weeks, at the end of August, for the first 2 weeks of September, you guys can join me. We'll be on Twitch, we'll probably be on YouTube Gaming, I'll be recording videos. So if there's anything you guys want to see, now's the perfect time to do it, because I've got time to do it. That takes me on to something else. Lawrence, I will be making a democracy-free video soon. Sorry, I'm just looking over here. I will be making it actually in the next 2 days, and I will be putting it up on the channel sometime soon. It won't necessarily be in the next 2 days, but I will make that. I promised I was going to do it. You've sent me enough comments. I definitely will do it. All right, and we'll do that. It's it's one of those things. I'm looking forward to it. So that's kind of where we are with the channel, where we are with me. So I guess the last thing to do is this little random rant that I tend to do at the end of each one of these videos. Today I'd like to talk about hype. I'm not going to mention any game names. I definitely am going to mention a game name, and I'm sure you know what the name of the game is. Hype and the responsibility of producers to build hype, but also to manage hype. And I guess the responsibility is us as gamers and the gaming industry and the journalists inside the gaming industry to also manage expectations and be realistic about things. So obviously we're talking No Man's Sky. Intriguing game. Looks like I've added No Man's Sky to my Steam basket about 4 times and never quite committed to buy it. And you know what? It's stupid, because I think I'd enjoy it. I genuinely think I'd like it. But something's stopping me, and what is that thing? So there's a number of things that lead up to this point. First off, anytime I see a game released that has no real release of information leading up to its release, no review copy of a game is released for a certain platform, worries me. Anytime there's an embargo on reviews, worries me. Why would you put an embargo on a review if you want people to buy your game? You'd want them to see as early as possible that it's a good game, unless you haven't got a good game. So that's the first thing. Let's look at what happened leading us up to this. The footage for No Man's Sky has been very, very few and far between releases. So the first time I ever saw it was E3 2014, and I saw a 3-minute game trailer, maybe even a 2-minute game trailer of this lush, it's just someone in space, I think, from what I recall. That video got floated around. It got a huge amount of compliments, awards at that first E3 and various other games shows from that point onwards. Sony got behind it. People didn't know a lot about it, but it got this huge amount of following. Then the fact that no information was being released about it, people started jumping to conclusions. Then information started to be released about it, but it was information that was quite lackluster in terms of its detail. One of the things that they released was the size of the universe, and don't get me wrong, 18 trillion planets, I think it is. Sounds pretty impressive to me. However, from what I've seen, it looks like 18 trillion of those planets are all very, very similar. And what I would say, all look very, very lifeless. When you snap back to the trailer that they put out, I can't remember which E3 it was, the actual trailer for the game, you've got animals in abundance running around the screen. You've got grass and foliage on the planet that looks alive. You've got ships flying overhead, And then you cut to the actual gameplay footage when you see people playing it, and every single planet looks a bit dead. It just doesn't have any real life about it. And essentially what they've built is an MMO. You're grinding on every single planet to make stuff to advance. However, they've made an MMO where you can't play with your friends. And that, to me, I find amazing. Yet, I still want to play it. I still want to try it. I probably will buy it. So there's this thing where the developers have sort of released certain snippets of information in such a way that it could be taken that certain things are possible. However, I'm not convinced they're possible. So things like, it's such a big universe, you're never going to encounter another player. Okay, might be true. But is it actually that you may well encounter another player, you just wouldn't know because you can't see them? Is that the thing? There's talk around, one of the things that appealed to me was actually buying the game, playing it with my friends and trying to see if we could all meet up. And I'm sure it appealed to a lot of other people. But from what I've read somewhere, and I can't remember where, that potentially two people were in the same place at the same time, couldn't see each other. And they were sure they were at the same place at the same time, which indicates to me that maybe it's not possible. Who knows? But the developer has kind of indicated that you will never ever see another player. You should never not buy it as a multiplayer game. However, it's a persistent universe. You'll be able to see people. That's kind of how it's been sold, and that's the problem, is that there's this grey area around what they've said and what they've delivered, which has caused people to be a little bit shirty, which I absolutely understand. However, a lot of gamers are responsible for it because they filled in the gaps and jumped to conclusions. And that's the way the games world and a lot of other industries work. It benefits from people being excited about a game and making their own conclusions. But that's also its downfall. So that's kind of where I'm coming from on No Man's Sky. And then I think the final point is the journalists and people who work in the press side of the industry. There was a huge amount of people getting on board of No Man's Sky without actually doing anything and finding out any information about it. They hadn't seen it played, they haven't seen it, but they've released this huge, or jumped on board this huge hype wagon, saying how amazing it's going to be, pushing how great it's going to be, without actually really getting on it. And I think that's what worries me more, is that these people who work in this industry have a responsibility to gamers to say, this game is worth your money, this isn't. I am talking from experience of this is what I've seen, and I think it's great, or I think it's terrible. Now, reviews I don't tend to follow too strongly, because I think that every single game should be judged on its own merits and what it means to you. And that's why I'm saying that even with all the bad press that No Man's Sky is getting, I personally would enjoy playing the game, because that's the kind of game that appeals. I might get bored after a few days, but that's the kind of game that where you're going around and you're exploring and you might find something different to anyone else, that appeals to me. It might not appeal to everyone. They might want a story, and No Man's Sky is clearly slightly removed from any kind of story. There is one, but it's not great. What worries me is you go to a space station and there's one person in the space station. It seems a bit odd. There's lots of little things that, how can you be discovering planets when there's a space station built above a planet? It doesn't make sense. So there's lots of little things that agitate me a little bit about the game, but I still think I'd enjoy it. But I just feel like we've all come together with No Man's Sky to give it no real chance. Yet, because of what industry we're talking about, it's had huge commercial success, because people want to see new stuff that breaks boundaries. And No Man's Sky might well be doing that. It doesn't look like it to me, but I think if everybody who was so hyped for the game took a step back, and I'm not saying I'm not responsible for some of this stuff. I remember when Watch Dogs is a game I go back to a lot, because it had so much potential in my eyes and it looked amazing. It looked like it was breaking boundaries and molds that I'd seen, and then when it got released I realised it was Assassin's Creed with a different skin. And that I found so disappointing because it had this huge potential. But when I looked at myself after that, when I built it up to be as amazing as I thought it was going to be, when I looked at myself, I realised that the things I was expecting it to do, there was no way it could do, because we weren't at that point with the technology for it to happen. But I'd allowed myself to build it up to be that. The developers hadn't done anything to stop me doing that, but I'd allow myself to make me think that it was going to be something that it just couldn't deliver on. No Man's Sky is the same, but it's been done worse than I can ever remember in the games industry, in terms of people getting behind a game for the hype of it without knowing anything about it. And that's something that we all have to take some responsibility for. I think when you look at some of the tweets and some of the stuff, and there's been death threats and various other things on developers, it's a team of 14 developers essentially. If we all thought they were going to make the greatest game of all time, it's possible, it's highly unlikely. You've got publishers with hundreds of people working on titles. Look at the money that was spent on GTA. They're the sorts of things that when you actually take a step back and you look at it, you think, how can it ever have been anything more than what it is? And let's be honest, what it is a triumph of programming to be able to have that kind of size of environment and game world. So, I think we're being harsh on it because we wanted so much more, but when you boil it back and strip it back, there's still a massive achievement there. It's just not the game that we wanted. And we need to take responsibility of that, as well as the developers and everybody else in the games industry, and just be realistic about what we want. That being said, I expect to see some videos on the channel of No Man's Sky at some point. But that's kind of where we're coming from. That's my view on No Man's Sky. Obviously, like everybody else, I'm disappointed. But I still think they've released a game that I would probably enjoy playing. And maybe you guys would enjoy watching. Let me know if you would or you wouldn't. Let me know if you've got No Man's Sky, if you haven't got No Man's Sky, if you're thinking about getting it, if you were going to get it and then, like me, haven't got it yet because of certain reasons. Let me know what you think, because I'm really intrigued by it. It's one of those games that really has split opinions, and that's always quite interesting and good for the industry, to be fair. If you take away the hype and all the rest of those things and the fact that it was about one game, it gets people talking, and that I like. So come and have a chat with me about it. Anything else you want to talk about, come and find me, reply to this video, find me on Twitter, ScottDogGaming, Facebook me, tweet me, email me, add me on the PlayStation, on the Xbox, or on Steam. You can do all those things. All the links are in the description below. And if there's anything you want to see, then let me know. On that note, I'll see you all again soon. Thank you.